Hi friends, welcome to this fortnightly monthly current affairs update. I have updated it in the same document, right? Which I also do it for our McGrail Edge platform as part of the monthly current affairs update. But I thought I'll just give these updates on a fortnightly basis for the public at large, and you can also make use of it. We have discussed on the October 1st to 15th, the Supreme Court order on district appointment, surrogacy rules. We have already discussed that in the previous discussion. Please go and watch that video if you haven't done it before. And one important, interesting development with respect to this Supreme Court order on district judge appointment is that the Allahabad High Court, in a hearing which is happening now, and I'll update it whenever that ruling comes in the Supreme Court, has said, asked the Supreme Court to stay away from district court appointments. It has said that's the prerogative of the High Courts under the Constitution. You please don't come into it. And the Supreme Court has said, no, our aim is not to interfere. We just want to give equitable and general guidelines which can be followed everywhere. But it's an interesting development. We will see what happens, right? But this is something which we had discussed in the last fortnightly update. So please have a look at it. Now, some additional news in the last 15 days. News which was in the limelight for some time. An advocate threw or hurled a shoe at the Chief Justice of India. The Chief Justice of India was magnanimous enough. He said, I don't want to glorify this. I'll pardon that person and I don't want to discuss about it anymore. But the Attorney General, based on the Supreme Court Bar Association, which means the Lawyer Association of the Supreme Court, had requested Attorney General to grant permission. So guys, these events, though this, there is a lot of political debate and various other discussions that happen around this, but UPSC will pick the static portion linked to this when asking a framing a question. 2022, because of a similarly infamous contempt proceeding against lawyer Prashant Bhushan in 2021, that could have probably triggered the UPSC prelims question in 2022, which dealt with contempt of court. And similarly, a question can repeat itself. So the Contempt of Court Act requires that, court can suo motu take a contempt proceeding. Being a court of record, Supreme Court or High Court can suo motu on its own initiate a contempt proceeding. But if a third party, if some other individual wants to initiate a criminal contempt proceeding for something, against the contempt of the court, then the Attorney General, for a contempt of the court, an Attorney General for Supreme Court and Advocate General for High Court has to grant their permission. This is an important point which you should be aware of. The Attorney General gave his permission in this case, but in the hearing, the Supreme Court, the division bench said, no, we don't want to unnecessarily glorify it. The Chief Justice has already said he has pardoned that act, so we don't want to give unnecessary glorification and importance to this act. But guys, this is a very interesting thing, and this I learnt about because of this new development, and that's the beauty of preparation for this exam, right? And even as a trainer, I continue to learn so many things every day, and I'm happy to share them with you. So there is something called as a John Doe order, as it is called in the US, and in India it is apparently called an Ashok Kumar order. What does an John Doe or an Ashok Kumar order mean? It means that an order will be issued against anonymous parties. See, because there may be hundreds of handles which may glorify such incidents on the social media. Then, if a Ashok Kumar order is issued in India not to glorify such incidents, and if somebody does that, then a contempt proceeding can be initiated against that person, right? That is the purpose of issuing this anonymous orders, which are known as John Doe order or Ashok Kumar order. So the Supreme Court is considering keeping this open to consider issuing such orders, and if at all, if it happens, we will cover it in the subsequent current affairs updates. Collegium for the first time has stated that because of union government's objections, it is changing the transfer order of a High Court judge. So guys, again, there's been a lot of criticism about this decision, but that is something which we will not worry about for the examination point of view. From the examination point of view, what is the collegium for High Court transfers? Chief Justice of India plus 4 senior judges. The recommendation of the collegium is binding on the central government when it comes to transfer. Right? That is the judgment of the second judge's case. Only in respect of appointments, the government can return it for reconsideration of the collegium. And if the collegium unanimously reiterates, then as a matter of healthy convention, that person should be appointed. Right? But for transfers, it is binding on the government. Only the person who is being transferred can seek a review. But in this case, the government has objected, citing whatever reasons. It has just mentioned due to government's objections. There are newspaper reports which claim that he would have been within 2 senior judges in Chhattisgarh High Court, whereas in Allahabad he would be a junior judge and he wouldn't become part of the HC collegium, which initiates the recommendation for High Court appointments. So that is a separate controversy, but we should be aware of this. We should know the collegium for High Court transfers. All this has been discussed in our chapter 13 in a simple and a straightforward manner. So this is linked to that. Then Transgender Rights Act. So again, guys, our book Rights Issues, chapter 24 has various rights related enactments. Transgender Rights Act has been discussed in section 24.6. And this is a new development with respect to that. The Supreme Court has appointed a committee headed by a retired High Court judge to frame comprehensive policy for equitable opportunities, equal opportunities for transgenders. It has suggested that a transgender welfare board should be set up in each state and union territory. There must be a transgender protection cell under the district magistrates and DGPs. There must be a national helpline number. So these are some points which we can always quote in the mains answer relating to Transgender Rights Act if it comes, right? Justice Suryakant, who is the next in line appointed as the next Chief Justice of India, he will take over on November 25th if I am not wrong. So this again is as per the second judge's case that the senior most judge fit for appointment should be appointed as the next Chief Justice when an incumbent Chief Justice retires, linked to chapter 12 in our book. And this is an observation again. See, there is a UP law, anti-conversion law or something, where any interfaith marriages have to be registered. And with respect to that, there were some petitions which were filed in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court quashed all those petitions. And it has observed during that hearing that right to religion, which itself is a fundamental right, is intrinsic to right to privacy, which is declared as a fundamental right in the Puttaswamy case under Article 21. And more interestingly, in this case, the Supreme Court, again, it was a division bench, but the Supreme Court observed, and see guys, this is a slightly dichotomous or, different views of the Supreme Court on the same matter, inconsistency, you can say, in the judgments. See, for example, right to marry a person of one's choice was declared as part of the right of a person of life and liberty under Article 21 in Hadia case in 2018. That triggered the prelims question in 2018. Right to marry a person of one's choice is covered under which of the following articles? Article 21 was the right answer. But in the Supreo case, which was about legalizing same-sex marriage, which was heard in 2023 and decided by the court did not legalize same-sex marriage. It said that, we appreciate it, we will frame some guidelines for their protection, but it is for the parliament to do it. But in that case, a 5-judge bench said, right to marry is not a fundamental right, but it's a statutory right that is granted under Special Marriages Act or Hindu Marriage Act or the Sharia law, whatever, the religious laws governing marriage or the Special Marriage Act. So this is the inconsistency. Now in this case, the Supreme Court has again observed that right to religion, which includes the right to marry a person of some other religion, is intrinsic to right to privacy. So, this is the, you can say, a slight inconsistency in some of the observations of the court. If there is any further development on this, we will cover it in the subsequent discussions. But this is something which you should be aware of. It's an important observation of the court. Then Ladakh and Sikh schedule, Sonam Wangchuk's arrest. These points we had already discussed in the previous fortnight current affairs discussion. Please watch that video. Now, 2 further developments in the last fortnight, which I thought could be of significance for aspirants. One is relating to the state executive, bill to governors. There's a presidential reference. That presidential reference opinion will come before Justice Gawai retires on November 24th. So we'll cover it in the discussion in the subsequent fortnights. But during that hearing, this data point came. Just as in the last decade, How many number of bills were presented to governors for assent? How many of them were granted assent? How many of them assent was withheld? How many of them was returned to the assembly with a message? How many were reserved for consideration of the president? So this is a data point which you can just make a note of. And the 8th Central Pay Commission has been appointed. This is linked to civil service in a democracy, chapter 28 of our book. Now, what are the issues in pay parity, pay with the private sector, difference between entry level and senior levels of the government. So these are all some issues surrounding this pay commission. Anyways, I'll be covering it in a Hindu article and I'll discuss it in the subsequent monthly updates also. But this is current affairs that the 8th Central Pay Commission has been appointed under the chairmanship of retired Supreme Court Judge Ranjana Prakash Desai. So that is the fortnightly current affairs update for October 16th to 31st. I'll see you again next fortnight. All the best.